Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Loopy Studio. Today we are here with a movie review for you guys. We're going to be talking about the newest Marvel movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, and my dad is here to join me.
Hey everyone.
So we're taking a break from The Walking Dead just for this week so we can get caught up on those episodes, but we still kind of wanted to get something out to you guys, and we thought this was like perfect to talk about this movie. I think it's a good replacement. Would you agree?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of
hmm
fun.
So we just went to go see it today. So this is kind of our fresh thoughts of the movie, and I personally enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot of great stuff about this movie, like the acting, the writing, the humor. The cinematography was really good throughout. Some good like editing and like good shots, and I think it all had like a good message over interwoven through it. What did you think of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, it was super funny, super raunchy.
hmm
A lot of great sequences, a lot of great visuals, good music, really good soundtrack.
hmm
Yeah, I mean, I thought the acting was great. I thought the story was really good. I mean, definitely for me, the best Marvel movie in 5 years, for sure.
So you said since Endgame, you think
Yeah,
this is
since
the best
Endgame. And
movie?
again, I have to go back and look at the list, but it
Yeah,
was really, really good movie.
I
I mean,
mean,
again,
yeah.
rated R, raunchy, not for everybody,
hmm
but there were some good stories in it. If you're able to process all of that, move through all of that,
Yeah.
sort through it all, there were
And
some good themes.
honestly, I mean, it was raunchy, but like there was no like explicit sex scenes in this one where there were in the other one. So that is not an element in this one.
Yeah, yeah.
It's mostly like the dialogue
The
was
dialogue, a
very,
lot of vulgar,
yeah.
but I mean, very similar to the other two
hmm
Deadpool movies.
Yeah, for sure. So it starts off with this scene, Deadpool digging up Logan's grave,
Yes.
right? And I like this opening scene with like the credits like popping
Oh,
up on the screen.
oh, it was awful and
Yeah.
funny.
Well, I mean, it was like definitely very like well done with the editing, like of all that. I was impressed.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, they were
it was a really
using,
long fight scene too. They just kept popping up the TVA people. Yeah,
yeah,
and he was able to defeat all of them.
right, using the bones of Wolverine.
hmm
And the bones of Wolverine were, that antimanium or whatever it is, the real strong metal.
hmm
And it was comical, over the top, of course, and a lot of dance moves.
Yeah, the dance moves were kind of cringe, but
Yeah, yeah, but it was typical Deadpool, but it was a neat opening.
yeah, for sure. So we kind of catch up back up to him in his life. He has this family. He seems really happy, and at this point, it's because he was in such a bad place for like most of like from what we've seen him before.
Hmm.
Like very depressed. He lost Vanessa, um, and now he is in a better place. He has this family. He has this crush. It was nice to see him like very happy. Definitely, I feel like we saw like a better version, more happy, less depressed of Deadpool. This movie, would you agree?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. He was definitely in a better place, but I mean, he's surrounded by his family. But there's a but there.
hmm
He wanted to make a difference in his life, and he felt like he hadn't. And Vanessa seemed to be separated from him in the sense that she didn't see him as somebody who could make a difference with his life, and then that was an identity issue.
hmm
And so that kind of drove one of the plot lines of the whole movie was him desiring to make a difference, to make his life matter. I think was the quote.
Yeah, because then he ends up going to the TVA,
Hmm.
right? Um,
Yep, kidnapped.
yeah, and they pretty much tell him that he has like a chance to make his life matter, and he's all for it. Um, yeah.
Until because basically what the TVA wants to do is him to go to a different timeline to make a difference because this timeline is going downhill.
It's going
And
downhill because of the loss of Logan, and they not like they didn't say like the moral compass, but it was something like that that like kept this timeline together. And now that he's gone, it's just going downhill.
correct.
Like yeah, something like the moral, something I
Right.
don't know.
And
Yeah.
so then, he was caught in this choice. Does he go to the new timeline to be an Avenger? Or does he, make the bad choice and hang out with his family, so to speak, and try to redeem it?
hmm
And what does he do? He decides he's going to try to redeem it. And
Yeah.
that has a lot to do with that purpose of making his life matter.
Yeah, for sure. And then we get the introduction of Wolverine. He finds a Wolverine, um, and apparently he is like the worst Wolverine. They say like over and over again. He's like a drunk loser, kind of like depressed, just like how Deadpool was in the other movies.
Hmm.
It's like they swap. You can say like they swap places in a way. He's very much like the Debbie Downer of this whole thing. He does not want to be there, but like throughout the movie, we see him start to lighten up and see like a different side of this Wolverine. But yeah, what did you think of introduction of Wolverine overall?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, just the idea of Wolverine and Deadpool being together on screen was
Mm-hmm.
like a dream come true for us, like, comic nerds. Um, and it was good. It was good to see both Deadpool and Wolverine in the MCU, in the Marvel Universe, because, Deadpool's movies were always outside, and so was the X-Men movies. So this was neat to see them part of the MCU, to see them interacting with some of those characters, but yet there was also, bringing in some of these there's a lot of cameos, a lot of other cameos in there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was neat to see Wolverine on screen
Mm-hmm.
with Deadpool.
Yeah, for sure. I really enjoyed their dynamic, and there were some great fight scenes between them,
Oh
for
my
sure.
goodness, yes,
I feel like the action was like on another level, and like all the fighting choreography
yes.
and everything, like definitely better than a lot of the other Marvel movies.
Hmm.
Less special effects too, I would say overall.
I think
It
so.
really felt like it felt more grounded in the sense like it was just simple fighting. I mean, sure there was some crazy explosions and everything. Every Marvel movie is going to have that, but it really felt like more personal, I guess, between them and like the fighting, which I personally prefer than just like the outlandish like squid monsters and all of that.
Right,
Like
right.
that they usually have. Um, so I was in the bathroom during this part of the movie when they had like the Captain America. What did I miss?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. So Chris Evans showed up as a cameo,
yeah.
and Deadpool thinks he is Captain America.
Hmm.
That's the actor who played Captain America.
Hmm.
And there's this kind of funny line where Chris Evans says, "Okay, I'm going to say my statement," or I don't remember. Deadpool
Hmm.
maybe prompted him, and Deadpool thinks he's going to say, "Avengers assemble," and he says, "Flame on," which I had forgotten that Chris Evans years ago played the Human Torch in Fantastic Four movie. And
Hmm.
so this Chris Evans wasn't playing Captain America at all. He was actually playing the Human Torch. So that was one of the cameos that came in, these older characters from the Fox studio movies. Um, and so he was kind of tagging along with them in
Hmm.
their journey through the void.
Yeah, he popped up and then again at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we also have this villain named Cassandra. And yeah, this was very interesting. I was kind of wondering throughout, like, who is the villain going to be, or is there even going to be a villain in this movie? And yeah, Cassandra is the villain, and it was definitely creepy when she kept putting her fingers into their brains. Definitely got weirded out
Yeah.
by that. What did you think of Cassandra
Yeah, well,
overall?
she is the twin sister of Charles Xavier, Professor X from the X-Men. And, she's a villain and she has similar powers that Professor X has, a lot of telepathy and those kind of things.
Hmm.
So she's able to, enter into the minds of people and control their thoughts and stuff like that. And she made a good villain. She really did.
Hmm.
I wasn't sure, and again, my comic knowledge is hit and miss. I know a lot about certain things. I've never read any comics that had her in it, so I wasn't totally sure of her story and stuff. But it
Hmm.
was interesting. She was played an interesting character as the
Yeah.
villain, but it wasn't just her as the villain. I mean, there was this idea of the TVA as the villain also. Paradox, who was kind of a rogue leader within the TVA who wanted to create what was it called? Something killer? I don't know, timeline killer, whatever.
Yeah.
And so he created this machine that would wipe out not just the timeline that Deadpool was on, but also other timelines too.
Hmm.
And so Cassandra Nova wanted in on that. She wanted to wipe out these timelines. And so there was multiple villains, multiple different angles at it, and I think the complex plots of having multiple villains is a much better story than a singular villain.
Mm-hmm.
The
I
TVA,
agree.
as at least part of the TVA being a corrupt organization, has always made great film because that's the way the world works. It's not just we have villains; we have corrupt organizations, right?
It's
Um,
more
it's
realistic.
more
Yeah,
realistic, yeah.
I totally agree. And then who was the guy, like the main guy of the TVA, like the one that Deadpool like punched in the nose and had the
Yes,
tape
his
on
name
him?
was Paradox.
Paradox,
Yeah,
yeah. And it kind of went throughout like, is he good or bad? Because he had like, I guess, some good moments throughout, that maybe he was good, and in the end he was taken away.
yeah. He's definitely had some. He was trying to convince you that he was good, trying to
Yeah,
convince Deadpool that he's good.
yeah, with his whole speech and everything
Yeah,
about how
but
they were heroes and
but it
yeah,
was all for his own gain, and he
yeah,
was definitely a bad dude, and he went
yeah.
down at the end, and Cassandra Nova did as well, which is not
hmm
surprising. I mean, in the sense of villains usually bite the dust in Marvel movies eventually.
Well, yeah, and then just announced that they're having Doctor Doom as like the next villain.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and Doctor
for
Doom will
yeah,
be the villain,
or I guess not the
probably.
next villain in the next
Well,
movie, but like
the big
yeah,
bad. I mean,
hmm
he will be the villain in the probably show up somewhere in the Fantastic Four movie,
yeah.
and will show up in both of the upcoming Avengers movies. So
hmm
he'll be the next Thanos, so to speak.
So they had to bring in like a villain in this movie to kind of like fill in the space.
Hmm.
They have to like lead up to the big villain of Doctor Doom.
Hmm.
So like this movie, they probably were trying to like figure out who would make the most sense to be a villain. And I think Cassandra overall. I think the actress did a good job. I think she was pretty intimidating. I like the connection to Professor X.
Yeah.
If there wasn't a connection, I don't think it would have made as much sense.
Well, there's definitely this bringing in the 20th Century Fox movies into the Disney.
Literally
Yeah,
with that
bringing them
fox.
in. Yeah, and
Well, there
yeah,
was like that fox thing.
yeah,
Yeah, that was
and the
funny.
void, that funny
Yeah.
thing. There was this idea of bringing them into the MCU, and I think they did it in a very creative way. We had cameos from Gambit, cameos from Elektra,
hmm
and Blade,
Yeah,
and X-23.
And Blade's getting his own movies
Yeah, with a
supposedly.
new actor. Yeah,
Yeah. Wait, why the new actor?
well, they just reboot.
Reboot.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah, I like those cameos thrown in there and how they all work together, including X-23. So yeah, X-23 was who Wolverine saved in the other
correct.
movie,
Yeah,
and now she's back in a cameo role.
right.
Yeah, what did you think of her return overall, and her connection to Wolverine? Maybe her potential to be something more.
Well, I've always thought that she would be the next Wolverine. I thought that's where they
hmm
would go with all of this, but with Disney buying, Fox, the Fox movie line, that just kind of dropped, right? So I think there is tremendous potential for her to be the next, like, and especially in the Young Avengers movies that they're kind of cultivating with the younger superheroes. I think there's potential for her to be a part of that, and I hope so. And I could see a movie with Wolverine and X-23 together, as a team up, and I think there's a lot of potential there. And she's not a little girl anymore. She's probably a young adult at this point, don't you think, the actress?
hmm
And so I think she fits really well into the MCU, and she survived at the end of this movie, and
Yeah.
so she's, yeah,
Of course, silly me, I thought like her and Wolverine, they were setting that up for like a relationship, but then you were like, no, like father daughter type of
definitely more
thing.
father daughter. But you didn't see
Yeah.
Logan, so you didn't see the age
Yeah.
difference there.
Yeah, for sure. But now, I mean, I definitely feel like there's an age gap. How old do you think like Deadpool and Wolverine are roughly at this point?
Oh, Wolverine's my age probably, right? The
hmm
actor is anyway, 55 or so.
Yeah.
And then Deadpool's probably the actor's probably 40. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, definitely Wolverine's older than Deadpool,
Hmm.
as what they're leading us to believe. Um, but then there's also this black girl. What she was TVA.
Yes,
Yeah. Played.
and she was in one of the Loki shows. I haven't seen the
Oh
second Loki
yeah,
season,
I do remember
but
her
she was
being
in the
in Loki.
first Loki season. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like a tie-in too. We haven't watched all of season 2 of Loki, so like we didn't really understand those tie-ins necessarily. But definitely probably should have. But um, Yeah, so yeah, overall, I thought it was a good movie. The ending ended, I think, on a happy note. With Wolverine kind of joining Deadpool's family. There was like this like self-sacrifice theme throughout, where Deadpool was ready to sacrifice himself for Wolverine, even though he already had a family and everything, which just shows his character development.
Mm-hmm.
He even in this movie, he was very much like he's always very much all about himself. They're
Mm-hmm.
like selfish person, loves himself, loves his body. But in this, by the end of it, we do see him letting go of that selfishness and almost sacrificing himself for Wolverine. But Wolverine won't let that happen, and then they're about to both die, and then of course they both come out of it. And so was it going to end with them both dying?
Right.
But yeah, I like that theme of and how much character development Deadpool has, and
Mm-hmm.
and in this movie it really showed. Like compared to the first two, he's really developed a lot, even if he's still so immature.
Right.
Like he's really developed. Um, and yeah, at the ending. So who was the girl he was with, like holding hands with at the
Is
table?
that Vanessa?
So Vanessa's still alive,
Right.
but she just wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't totally sure about that. I mean, she didn't play a huge role in the movie.
No, I mean it's his love, and
Hmm.
again, in the beginning of the movie, she's distant from him because of his seem to have a lack of direction.
Hmm. Yeah,
And again, I don't
yeah.
remember the second Deadpool movie. It's been a long time, so I don't remember how that ended.
Hmm.
But there was definitely a gap there.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't even know if that was. I mean, I thought maybe it was Vanessa, but like, it definitely compared to what I remember of how central their relationship was. It definitely felt like more of a backseat, that whole love story.
Yeah,
But it
but that
did,
was
and
driving it. That
yeah,
was driving his actions
yeah, for
to
sure.
redeem himself.
Yeah, and that scene where he was thinking of her and him saying like and her saying he doesn't matter
Right.
was like a really good
It was.
him spiraling and everything. I think that was like overall, he was in a good place for I think a good chunk of the movie. I think that was kind of his breaking point. But I did like how the movie ended, of course, on a happy note, with Deadpool and Wolverine all at that table, and Wolverine kind of developing this connection with X-23, and then Deadpool and Vanessa holding hands. I mean, it was definitely a happy ending. And then there was like this whole monologue at the end by Deadpool, that was also really meaningful too. So I did like that ending a lot.
Yeah,
Wasn't like a cliffhanger really.
not at all.
I don't think it needed to be. Is there going to be more Deadpool movies, or do you think this was the end?
Mm, I hope that they're able to utilize Deadpool in some way. I mean, it would be really cool if he showed up in Secret Wars, Avengers, in some way. And I think that would be neat to see him with the Avengers, maybe joining the Avengers finally, because that theme seemed to be a theme within it, his desire to be an Avenger.
Hmm. Yeah, I in the credits rolled and they played this like montage with like past movies. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Um, I it was cool to hear Ryan Reynolds say how much he wanted to play Deadpool
Mm-hmm.
like so long ago,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. Like when the actor, you can always tell when they have a passion for the character that they're playing, and like he really delivers in this movie. You can tell he really enjoys the character.
Right.
Sometimes it's like they're just doing it for the money, like they don't enjoy the character that they're playing, but that's not the case in this
Right.
movie. And I think Hugh Jackman does a good job as Wolverine too. Would you agree?
Oh
I
yeah, I
think
think he's
both of them are
awesome.
great actors.
Yep.
I love the connection between them, like the enemies to friends, I guess.
Yes.
Um, kind of like a Johnny and Daniel from Cobra Kai, a
Sure.
little bit.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think Johnny and Deadpool actually have a lot in common. Johnny says some ridiculous stuff, just like
Sure.
Deadpool
Sure. You're
does,
right.
and Daniel and Wolverine are not. But
It
but
only goes so far.
yeah, but like a similar type of like relationship between them for
Mm-hmm.
sure. But yeah, what would you say like are some overall like themes like that stuck out to you from the movie?
Yeah, there was. I jotted down a few. The first one was the impact of the original Wolverine, and the movie opened with him being dead, but we find out that his sacrificial death for X-23 had made a huge impact on that entire timeline. He was known, I mean, respected. When his name was mentioned, the TVA, everyone got real quiet and everything. They
Hmm.
respected him. They thought he was amazing. He made a big impact. And I thought that was interesting. The legacy, the idea of legacy, leaving a legacy, how one person can make an impact
Hmm.
on a timeline, right?
Yeah.
And when his um, legacy made that big impact, but without somebody embodying that legacy, without somebody living as an example, the timeline went downhill, right? And
Hmm.
so we see at the end that Deadpool's timeline is going downhill, and the reason is because Wolverine's gone. He made that big of an impact upon that timeline. For me, I see a theme like that. I'm like, yeah, man, that is really awesome that one person can make such a big impact upon the world, right?
Hmm.
And that theme is woven into this whole story of one person could be a world changer.
Yeah.
The second is the Wolverine, the opposite, the alternative timeline Wolverine. He had ruined his life. He was a failure in his timeline. He abandoned the X-Men, wasn't there when they needed the most. They all died. But yet we see him, struggling throughout the movie. But there's a redemption arc. There's a redemption story where he, the one who failed, is able to move forward. And his story is redeemed at the end, and he ends up being a hero,
Hmm.
um, the opposite of what he was in his original timeline. Now, I think one of the things that was mentioned, and I don't remember the line, so forgive me here, but somebody was talking about, wish we could, go, or maybe Deadpool said something about going back and fixing uh, Wolverine's timeline, fixing his mistakes from the
I
past.
think it was Deadpool.
And I think it was this comment that the black lady in the TVA said, no, his past made him who he is.
Hmm.
And I think it's interesting. We have all these failures, mistakes, and suffering, and scars, and all these things, and we would like to go back and fix them. Maybe the regrets or things in our lives, but actually, those have the opportunity to shape us to be the heroes of the future.
Hmm.
So, we don't want to go back and fix Wolverine's mistakes because those mistakes helped him grow in character to be the person who was the
I mean,
hero of this movie.
like all of us, our mistakes shape who we are.
Yeah,
Like everyone makes mistakes. If we didn't make mistakes, then we would just be at like a standstill with our
yeah,
development.
stagnant.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we need those mistakes in order to grow. So I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the third theme, final theme here, is the Deadpool's internal struggle. He has this self doubt. Is his voice telling him that he's not good enough, that he can't live a life that matters. His relationships are fractured. They're friends, but him and Vanessa aren't connected like he wants them to be.
Hmm.
He has Cassandra. When she was playing with his mind,
Yeah.
she was planting those images. You'll never make. You'll
Hmm.
never make a difference. You never change the world. You'll never do anything.
Hmm.
And that's his self doubt, kind of like speaking, right? But the movie is a movie of redemption and restoration, redemption of him as his identity. Feels like it's not good enough, but he does. His life does matter. He does make a difference. He does save the world. There's a scene in the beginning of the movie when Deadpool was trying out to be an Avenger, and he didn't make the cut. He didn't. He didn't become an Avenger. He wasn't good enough,
Hmm.
and that theme runs through the movie. Him not being good enough, but by the end, he is good enough, and that's my hope that he will become an Avenger because one person can change the world, even if people doubt you, even if you're not good enough, or even if you don't feel good enough, and you have those voices in your mind. You can move through them. And then the last part of that, which I really love, was the table scene at the end of the movie, where they're all gathered around the table celebrating as family. Wolverine's
Hmm.
there, X-23's there, and then all Deadpool and his family, and him and Vanessa are holding hands and stuff. And it's just a beautiful scene. But the table is a symbol again of family.
Hmm.
That's community. It's love. We need each other. Great themes. So I really like the big picture of this film. I love the story of the original Wolverine, the alternative Wolverine, and Deadpool. The connection, the teamwork, friendship, and the story of redemption woven in. Great movie. Really, really enjoyed those
Yeah.
themes. Now, again, when we talk about rated R movies like this, they're really raunchy. I don't recommend them for children. If you are able to kind of process through some of the raunchiness and able
Hmm.
to have conversations like Micah and
Hmm.
I are having conversations, it can be a fruitful, uh, you know,
Yeah.
experience of seeing art in the form of film. But again, it's not for everybody. If you get really offended by raunchy humor or f bombs and stuff like that, I don't recommend this
Yeah.
film.
I mean, of course, there's f bombs like at once a
Yeah,
minute,
once
or
every
yeah,
minute. Yeah,
really.
so,
So like, and we were going into that like knowing that's what was going to happen.
exactly.
So I didn't think anything was outlandishly bad in this
No, no
movie.
different than the first two
Yeah, no
movies.
different. It
Uh,
wasn't like an upgrade in raunchiness like some people say. It was pretty consistent with the other two.
it's
So
interesting, Mike. I saw this video on TikTok of a
you mean
Christian,
short YouTube?
yeah,
Haha.
short YouTube of a Christian husband and wife who were very offended by this movie. They went in and they left 25 minutes in, and they said that there was a lot of anti-Christian messaging throughout. And I found it interesting because I was very much in tune listening for that, right? I was
Hmm.
listening for the anti-Christian. And there is this one idea that is mentioned in it is Deadpool is like the Marvel Jesus. He's
Hmm.
there to save the world. Now, you could be offended by that, or you could look at it for what it really is trying to say is that the identity of Jesus is a savior.
Hmm.
And Deadpool was entering into a story of saving the world. Now, I think that actually is a redeeming storyline. I don't think that is a negative storyline at all. He wasn't saying that he was replacing Jesus. He was just saying he was a savior in this Marvel timeline. So I thought that was interesting, and I wasn't offended by that at all. Now some
No.
people might, but I'm not someone who gets offended easily by pop culture expressions of images of Jesus or mentions of Jesus. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. I mean, I would rather have people talk about Jesus than completely forget about him. And in this case, in Deadpool, the term Jesus or the name Jesus was equated with savior. And Deadpool was playing the role of a savior in a story. So you and I have opportunities to do it too. We have
Yeah.
opportunities to save and help and redeem and restore, following the footsteps of Jesus. Of course,
Hmm.
we're not dying on any crosses. There's only one Savior, but in a
Yeah.
sense, we all can play a part in the redemption and restoration of the world. So good
Yeah,
stuff.
totally agree. So yeah, overall, good movie. Definitely better than a lot of the prior Marvel movies, would you say?
Yeah, I would say it was better of the best of the three Deadpool movies. And I would overall, I would give it if I was giving it grades, I would
Yeah,
give it
agreed.
an A minus. If I was going on the 10-point scale like we do with Walking Dead, I would say 9 out of 10.
I was thinking like 9 or A minus or A, solid
Okay, good.
A.
There you go.
Yeah, it was
Same
really
page.
good. Yeah. So yeah, we'll be back next week with the return of the Walking Dead podcast. But until then, everyone have a good week, and we'll see you soon. Bye,
Grace and
everyone.
peace. See ya.